Hello again, brothers and sisters, and welcome to the Barnabas Minute, where we put scriptures to pictures to edify, to exhort, and to strengthen. Today, we're actually going to turn to 2 Corinthians chapter 12, and we're going to be looking at verses 9 and 10. And in this chapter, at the beginning of it, this is the chapter where the Apostle Paul speaks about a man who was caught up to the third heaven. And while he was there, he saw inexpressible and wonderful sights and revelations. And we think that Paul is referring to himself, even though he speaks in the third person, because then right after that, he talks about being God, in order that Paul didn't become conceited, hit him with something called a thorn in his flesh. And then in the verses just immediately before these two that we're going to read, Paul says that he requested and petitioned God on 3 separate occasions to get rid of this thorn in the flesh. And then we come to chapter 12, verses 9 and 10, and this is God's answer to Paul about his thorn in the flesh and everything that he's suffering. Here we go, verse 9. And he has said to me, my grace. And here, grace is the free and unmerited favor of God. So, my grace is sufficient for you. For power is perfected in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, I, Paul, will rather boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may dwell in me. Now, my friends, that's almost counterintuitive there. It almost goes against the world. God's grace, his favor, is sufficient for us no matter what weakness we may be going through. And in our weakness, we can find strength in his grace. The world will say, no way. Be strong all the time. The moment you show weakness, you're going to be chewed up and spat out, sort of a thing. This is just the exact opposite. But we're not done. Verse 10 takes it to the best point of all. Here we go. Therefore, I, this is Paul, delight in weaknesses. Wow. In insults, in distresses, in persecutions, in difficulties, in behalf of Christ. And here it is, my friends. For when I am weak, then I am strong. My friends, that is awesome right there. Again, like I said, that's just the exact opposite of what the world would say. How can this be? Because when we are truly weak, we realize that there's no one else that we can turn to. And if we drop those walls, those protective walls that all of us have up, I too have those up, we need to drop those walls and see that the Holy Spirit's right there to help us. Then God's grace comes to us. We haven't earned it. He has given it to us freely. And in our time of mental anguish, in our time of physical weakness, whatever may be hitting us, even in spiritual attacks from our adversary, the devil, God's grace is sufficient if we can just see it for what it is and allow the Holy Spirit to filter it to us. So my friends, we can become strong in our weakness because we have an eternal loving Father whose grace knows no bounds. Praise his name. I hope these words will be encouraging to you for this coming week. God bless, and I'll see you next time.